That's really calling to me, I think.
That item is of the highest quality.
But the saddlebags, man. It doesn't have a seat, though. Like, I really like the idea of this one because it has a seat. And, like, a cool leather handle. Do it. Do it.
You'll be thrilled with that broom, I promise you. Whilst nearly any broom will certainly be a step up from the practice brooms in Kagawa's class, they all have their limitations. You seem to be a flyer who might be interested in, say, some enhancements?
I do like enhancements.
Ha! Knew I was right about you. I think you'll be quite happy with the performance of any broom at lower altitudes. But you may notice that speed consistency tends to falter as you rise. I believe I can remedy this issue. I have some ideas for enchantments, upgrades, if you will, that will improve the performance of any broom you fly. What I need is someone to conduct a broom flight and report back to me so I can perfect the upgrades. As it happens, another Hogwarts student, Imelda Reyes, is using abandoned broom courses for time trials. Clever girl.
Nice.
An ideal situation for collecting flight statistics. If you were to compete for the best time and succeed, then report back to me with how your broom behaved, I could complete work on my first upgrade. What say?
Hell yeah.
That sounds intriguing. I'll see what I can do.
Thank you. It'll be worth your while. If I'm right, the new upgrade ought to enhance brooms in every regard. And I can give you a special price. The time trial should be a bit of fun too. Go to the Quidditch pitch and Imelda Reyes will sort you out. Once you've beaten Imelda's time, be sure to let me know.
Sure. Hawks being certain areas prohibit flying. Look for the no flying icon.
Can't help but admire Mr. Weeks' enthusiasm.
Now, the question is, how do I summon my broom? I'm not allowed to use it here. So I would probably need to get outside of here really quick. I need to test something. Must test. World map. Take me to the world map, please, just so that I can travel somewhere and test my broom. If you ever come across chips with an eyeball, which I have come across several of those, Chris. Oh, you use an invisibility spell? I was using the cloaking spell, and it wasn't working. So I wonder what I did wrong. Maybe I was too close when I used the cloaking spell. Oh, look at that! Would you look at that? Look at that!
The tasks I've given you, and then meet me in my classroom to learn Defender.
Oh, it's so cool!
It's typically used to cut an object, but can be a powerful weapon when needed.
Whee! All right, kids. I got a broom. Hold on. Hang on. I gotta get a. Hang on. Where'd my character go? There he is. I gotta get a screenshot. Damn it. Toggle UI. This is what I did. There we go. Move up and down. That right there that's gonna be the perfect place for me to use for the screenshot. For this, because I'll clip this out on YouTube. That's way too cool. Way too cool. All right, now the question is, how do I get out of photo mode? Now I have to dismount, I think. Hang on, I just saw something. What does that mean? Oh, that just shows you the controls. So cool. Alright. I have tons of quests now. And I have to finish my breakfast too. Acquire and use an invisibility potion. That's going to take me a while because I don't have the coin. I did buy the Thunder Brew, but I don't have the invisibility potion, I think. Have I ever dealt with theft of intellectual property? No. I did have a client one time who tried to stiff me on payment. This is years ago. And I had done a bunch of work, and they had always paid on time. And then suddenly they didn't. I submitted a batch of work. They didn't pay me. And then they sent me a query for the next batch of work. And I was like, you haven't paid me for the work I already submitted. And we're like, oh, well, we're having problems, blah, blah. And I said, great, sort the problems out, and I'll get back to work. In the meantime, I'm not lifting a finger until you pay me. A couple weeks went by, they still hadn't paid me. So I sent a query because they had used my work on their website. They were using the work that I had provided them with, but they had yet to pay me. And no reply. I sent another email like 72 hours later, no reply. So then I sent a cease and desist letter because I said you're literally using my work without having paid me. That's intellectual theft and blah 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 blah. You have 24 hours to remove, or my legal team will be contacting you. And I had an email within like 2 hours. Oh, we'll get you your payment. And then like 3 hours later, I had a deposit. Because you can submit takedown notices to Google, and they will take the website offline. Because that's a real thing. Like, Google takes intellectual property seriously because of intellectual property laws. Anyway, the Bungie situation it's not nearly as cut and dry as everyone says it is. Especially the people who hate corporations. And so everyone loves to hate a big company, right? So it's easy to paint the target on Bungie's back and say Bungie's an evil corporation because they make billions of dollars and they stole this person's stuff. The reality is, when a big company like that is using subcontractors and freelancers, there is a chain of events. And especially when it's something where someone submitted work years ago. Work gets submitted, work goes through, stuff gets filed, stuff goes into, here's a draft box, all these things can happen. It's not nearly as cut and dry as some people would like it to be. And that's going to be something that gets resolved in a court of law. Because I can tell you what it comes down to is just it's not a clear-cut case of intellectual theft. What it is a clear case of is a faulty system whereby people weren't properly checking that the items being used had been cleared for use through their appropriate channels in terms of, is this work flagged for you? Has it been paid for? Has it been approved? Is it copyrighted? Is it trademarked? That's where things get sticky and tricky. And when you have 150 different hands that might touch a piece of art as it moves along the pipeline, who's responsible? Because I guarantee you there's probably 15, 20, 30 people who are ultimately responsible for the mess that happened. It's not just one person, and it's not the company per se. It may be the company policies, and this is where we get into this is where we get into the lawsuit that will sort that out, and this will enable that person to get fairly compensated, but it will also ensure that proper steps are taken so that that kind of thing doesn't happen again in the future. But it's not this case. I guarantee you, as someone who has done 25 million words of print around the world, the company, because no company is that stupid, no company is going to willingly steal from an artist, because the repercussions in terms of the loss of reputation of the company, the loss of sales for the company, $1 billion, not billion, but $1 million lawsuit. Companies don't want those things to happen. Fuck no, they don't want those things to happen. So it's not a willful theft of that person's art. It is okay, someone fucked up along the way. Now we have to be responsible for that. And it sucks. But we're going to make sure that this never happens again. It's that kind of a situation. So it's not, I don't paint Bungie as the bad guys. I know exactly what went down. Someone somewhere fucked up, didn't do their job properly, didn't flag things properly. It got ran up the chain. That person didn't know. The next person down the chain didn't know. Suddenly you're 30 people deep, and the person at Flaw, the person who should have flagged that as something that was copyrighted, no longer works for the company. It was 6 years ago, and now it's buried underneath 50,000 other art assets, right? It's so complex. It's so complex. I gotta finish my sandwich. Hang on. Not only that, Lady Atara, it's also a situation when you start to work with lots of different subcontractors. This is an issue when you're outsourcing. It's much better if you have an in-house art team, because then you own everything they produce. So if I'm a company, right? If I'm a company, like let's say I'm Wizards of the Coast, and I want to create the new Dungeons and Dragons Player's Handbook. And I know that I'm going to need 750 pieces of art in that book. If I have to pay 750 different artists, and all of those images have different rights associated with them because of all the different imaging copyrights and art copyrights, and the different artists want to retain use of images for blah, 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 it is much easier and better for the company if I hire an artist or a team of artists. I hire those artists, they work for me, everything they produce while they are employed by me is my property. Every single piece of whatever they produce is mine. I own it because I own the intellectual property that they are working on. When you start working with subcontractors who are not employees of the company, things get sticky and tricky. And that's where Bungie's in. They used a bunch of subcontractors. So there's a bunch of rubber stamping that needed to happen along the way, and that just didn't happen in the proper way. It is much easier, but not cheaper. Much easier to have your own team of artists, but not cheaper, because here's the thing. You can hire outsourced labor for way cheaper than hiring an artist full-time on staff. Way cheaper. And that's why companies use freelance labor, because it's way cheaper. They don't have to have employee protection laws. They don't have to cover insurance. They don't have to cover health care. They don't have to cover any of those things with freelancers. So if it costs me $75,000 on the books to hire one artist because of the cost of healthcare and insurance and all the other things that I'm required to hold to keep that person as an employee of the company, for $75,000, I can get a shitload of art produced with freelancers. So Yeah, art stuff is really tricky. Intellectual copyright stuff is tricky, period. Well, I don't think I can get a hold of an invisibility potion. Thanks, Burlak. Yeah, there's a. It gets really complex. Like photography is another one. Um, like let's say I go out and I take a picture of something. It's my picture. I took it. I own the rights to it. But then I decide to maybe submit that photo to a magazine to accompany an article they're writing. Like let's say I'm freelance and I'm submitting photography. Like National Geographic tells me we need photos of street food in London. So I go, I'm in London, I live in London, so I'm one of their freelance photographers. So I go out and I shoot 500 photos of food photography in London. I submit the 15 best shots out of those 500. Nat Geo gets back to me and says we're going to use these 5. They're going to pay me a flat fee to license those images, right? Now, depending on my agreement with National Geographic, they may want to buy an exclusive right to use those images. So they want to use those images and they don't want those images used anywhere else in the world, in any publication online or in print. So they're going to pay a higher fee because they're licensing a worldwide use option for those photos. But maybe they don't care if those are used somewhere else. So maybe I negotiate that they can use that photo in their publication for 6 months exclusive, but then after those 6 months, I then have the right to sell that image somewhere else or to use that image in other areas in other ways. It just depends on what usage rights are purchased from me or licensed from me as the original rights owner. This is why it's always better from a company perspective if you just have people on staff who do the things for you, because then you own it. Otherwise, things get really murky and quirky and weird, and
Hello
rights
there.
are complicated.
In the market for potions, are we?
An invisibility potion recipe. Oh, the Thunder Brew. Both of these are really expensive. My goodness. Well, let's start with the invisibility because I can afford
Wise
it.
decision. Thank you. I hope to see you again. Farewell for now.
Hang on, I got a little ahead of myself. We got some new gear. I can't even use those yet. AI scraping is not the problem a lot of people claim it is. It's not really an issue.
Hello, Mr. Pippin. You need help with a delivery?
Yes, I do. A capable student such as yourself should have no trouble making the trip to Cambridge. It's just south of Hogwarts.
What do you need delivered?
Fatima Lawang ordered a few invisibility potions. I used to go myself, but lately Fatima has taken to turning every visit into an argument. Constantly complaining about the quality of my stock. But how can I maintain excellence when she orders so often, giving me no time to brew? If you take this rather irritating task off my hands, I'd happily allow you to claim the delivery fee from Fatima.
I need the money, so let's do it.
I'd be happy to help with the delivery.
You've no idea how grateful I am, truly. Here are the invisibility potions she requested. Hopefully she won't give you too much trouble.
What if I just take one of these
She's a
potions for my
talented
quest?
potioneer in her own right. I dare say I wouldn't mind having a look at her potion recipes one day.
Okay. Now I am tracking that quest, yes? Let's definitely track these along the way. No, hang on, I can only do one at a time. So, this right here
Oh, here's a pleasant surprise.
is so cool. Like, being able to fly around now. Question. Okay. Are we missing one somewhere? Obviously we are, but where?
Revelio.
Oh. Well, I'm a bit miffed by this one.
Accio. Revelio.
Oh, there it is.
Accio. Merlin himself would be proud.
Okay.
No, I swear I won't be wasting your time. And I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Come
ever
on!
so.
Come on then, what you got?
It's
Why is it moving?
What, I bet...
Your bag, it's wriggling. What you got in there? Not rats, I hope.
Not very
Pleased
good at
to see Aaron
controlling
has his
that.
belongings back.
Yeah, no.
He's
I
one
want to
of
go.
those
There was like some
types
dark
before
wizards
trying
doing
that again.
something around the corner. Hang on! Is it like a combat encounter? Don't think it is.
Amateur.
Alright. Alright, this is pretty cool. Can you trigger these by just flying close?
Oh, Armchair.
Beautiful.
This hamlet is simply crawling with life.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So now I can grab the next one on the path down. Where am I at right now? Ah, there we are. This one's next. Can I, this is something I forgot to check. Can I change the controls for the flights? Gameplay options. Ah, flight controls. I don't want to invert. No, that's not what I want to do.